For decades, the story of human arrival in the Americas was neatly packaged into a single theory, Clovis first. The scientific consensus held that roughly 13,000 years ago, small bands of hunter-gatherers crossed a land bridge from Asia into North America, becoming the continent's first inhabitants. But as radiocarbon dating improved, that timeline collapsed. Archaeologists began unearthing sites deep in the Americas that predated the 13,000-year mark by thousands of years. This dismantled the prevailing model, leaving an uncomfortable void in the archaeological record. The scientific community had to step back and reevaluate the entire history of human migration into the hemisphere. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the internet. Into that void poured a rush of pseudo-archaeological myths. Fringe theorists began promoting the Solutrean hypothesis, the idea that ancient Europeans crossed the Atlantic to teach indigenous populations how to settle and build structures, or even wilder claims about a lost race of giants. By attributing indigenous accomplishments to hypothetical elites from Europe, these theories suggest that First Nations were incapable of building complex societies on their own. This narrative has historically served to justify colonial expansion, providing a white savior myth that attempts to erase the deep-rooted sovereignty of indigenous people. The actual physical evidence paints a far more sophisticated picture. Take a recent discovery near the North Saskatchewan River in Canada. While surveying the area, a researcher noticed artifacts steadily eroding out of a steep cliff face. This site, located on the traditional territory of the Strivden Lake First Nation, dates back roughly 10,700 years. That places its active use right on the heels of the last ice age, exactly when the retreating glaciers first made the land habitable. Excavations revealed stacked fire pits and dense charcoal layers, evidence of sophisticated fire management practiced over generations. This site served as a permanent, long-term settlement, anchored by the presence of complex lithic materials used in continuous tool production. Researchers also uncovered large remains of the extinct bison antiquus. To consistently harvest animals weighing up to 2,000 kilograms requires strategic hunting techniques, coordinated labor, and generations of active land management. To put that timeline in perspective, this village was thriving at the same time as some of the oldest recognized ancient monuments on Earth, like the massive stone pillars of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. The layered soil of this site provides physical proof that highly organized, settled indigenous societies existed in central Canada thousands of years earlier than archaeologists previously assumed. Beyond the physical artifacts, we also have microscopic evidence. Geneticists track ancient migrations using haplogroups, which are essentially genetic family trees that group people together based on shared mutations passed down over thousands of years. Proponents of the fringe Solutrean hypothesis often point to one specific marker, haplogroup X. Because this genetic marker exists in small percentages in some Native American populations today, fringe theorists claim it proves ancient Europeans arrived in the Americas first. This diagram maps the haplogroup lineages. The variant in ancient Native American DNA is a distinct subbranch called X2A, unique to North America. Theorists conflate this with a completely different branch, X2, found in Scotland. These lines are separated by nearly 10,000 years of distinct mutations. We see this clearly in the ancient DNA of Kennewick Man. He lived over 8,400 years ago and carried the X2A lineage. Yet his genome shows distinct genetic affinities with Siberian populations, completely lacking any recent European ancestry. Modern genomic tracing consistently points in one direction. The ancestry of early indigenous peoples is rooted in ancient migrations from Asia, closing the door on the European origin myth. Mainstream archaeology got the original Clovis timeline wrong. That is a documented fact. Discarding a flawed hypothesis when confronted with better radiocarbon dates and clearer DNA is exactly how the scientific method works. It adapts to evidence, whereas fringe conspiracies require ignoring data to keep a rigid myth alive. Today, recovering this deep past is a collaborative effort. Academic archaeologists, geneticists, and indigenous knowledge keepers are working together to preserve these ancient sites. The history of North America is defined by a deeply rooted, highly organized indigenous presence that stretches back to the retreat of the glaciers. Acknowledging past errors and updating our models with new physical and genetic data is our most reliable mechanism for discovering the actual truth of human history.